Sannyasa is the life stage of renunciation within the Hindu philosophy of four age-based life stages known as ashramas, with the first three being Brahmacharya, Grihastha and Vanaprastha. Sannyasa is traditionally conceptualized for men or women in late years of the life, but young brahmacharis have had the choice to skip the householder and retirement stages, renounce worldly and materialistic pursuits and dedicate their lives to spiritual pursuits. Sannyasa is a form of asceticism, is marked by renunciation of material desires and prejudices, represented by a state of disinterest and detachment from material life, and has the purpose of spending one's life in peaceful, love-inspired, simple spiritual life. An individual in sannyasa is known as a Sannyasi or Sannyasini in Hinduism, which in many ways parallel the Sadhu and Sadhvi traditions of Jain monasticism, the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis of Buddhism, and the monk and nun traditions of Christianity, respectively. Sannyasa has historically been a stage of renunciation, ahimsa, peaceful and simple life and spiritual pursuit in Indian traditions. However, this has not always been the case. After the invasions and establishment of Muslim rule in India, from the 12th century through the British Raj, parts of the Shaiva and Vaishnava ascetics metamorphosed into a military order to rebel against persecution, where they developed martial arts, created military strategies, and engaged in guerrilla warfare. These warrior sannyasis played an important role in helping European colonial powers establish themselves in India. Etymology and synonyms. Samyasa in Sanskrit means renunciation of the world and abandonment. It is a composite word of sam, which means together, all, ni, which means down, and asha from the root as meaning to throw or to put. A literal translation of sannyasa is thus to put down everything, all of it. Sannyasa is sometimes spelled as Sanyasa. The term Samyasa makes appearance in the Samhitas, Aranyakas and Brahmanas, the earliest layers of Vedic literature, but it is rare. It is not found in ancient Buddhist or Jain vocabularies, and only appears in Brahmanical literature of the first millennium BCE, in the context of those who have given up ritual activity and taken up non-ritualistic spiritual pursuits discussed in the Upanishads. The term sannyasa evolves into a rite of renunciation in ancient sutra texts, and thereafter became a recognized, well-discussed stage of life by about the 3rd and 4th century CE. In Dravidian languages, Sannyasi is pronounced as Sannyasi and also Sannyasi in colloquial form. Sannyasis are also known as bhiksu, pravrahita, yati, sramana and parivrajaka in Hindu texts. History. Jameson and Witzel state early Vedic texts make no mention of sannyasa or ashrama system, unlike the concepts of Brahmacharya and Grihastha which they do mention. Instead, Rig Veda uses the term antigriha in hymn 10.95.4, still part of extended family, where older people lived in ancient India, with an outwardly role. It is in later Vedic era and over time, sannyasa and other new concepts emerged, while older ideas evolved and expanded. A three-stage ashrama concept along with vanaprastha emerged about or after 7th century BC, when sages such as Yajnavalkya left their homes and roamed around as spiritual recluses and pursued the pravrajika lifestyle. The explicit use of the four-stage ashrama concept appeared a few centuries later. However, early Vedic literature from 2nd millennium BC mentions muni, with characteristics that mirror those found in later Sannyasins and Sannyasinis. Rig Veda, for example, in Book 10 Chapter 136, mentions mendicants as those with kesan and malaclothes engaged in the affairs of Mananit. Rig Veda, however, refers to these people as muni and vati. He with the long loose locks supports Agni, and moisture, heaven and earth. He is all sky to look upon. He with long hair is called this light. The Munis, girdled with the wind, wear garments of soil hue. They, following the wind's swift course, go where the gods have gone before. These Munis, their lifestyle and spiritual pursuit, likely influenced the Sannyasa concept, as well as the ideas behind the ancient concept of Brahmacharya. One class of Munis were associated with Rudra. Another were Vratyas. Lifestyle and goals. Hinduism has no formal demands nor requirements on the lifestyle. A spiritual discipline, method, a deity, a sannyas and a sannyasini must pursue. It is left to the choice and preferences of the individual. This freedom has led to diversity and significant differences in the lifestyle and goals of those who adopt sannyasa. There are, however, some common themes. A person in sannyasa lives a simple life, typically detached, itinerant, drifting from place to place, with no material possessions or emotional attachments. They may have a walking stick, a book, a container, a vessel for food and drink, often wearing yellow, saffron, orange, ochre or soil-colored clothes. They may have long hair and appear disheveled, and are usually vegetarians. Some minor Upanishads as well as monastic orders consider women, child, students, fallen men and others as not qualified for sannyasa, while other texts place no restrictions. The dress, the equipage and lifestyle varies between groups. For example, Sannyasa Upanishad in verses 2.23 to 2.29 identifies 6 lifestyles for 6 types of renunciates. One of them is described as living with the following possessions: pot, drinking cup and flask, the 3 supports, a pair of shoes, a patch robe giving protection in heat and cold, a loincloth, bathing drawers and straining cloth, triple staff and coverlet. Those who enter sannyasa may choose whether to join a group. Some are anchorites, homeless mendicants preferring solitude and seclusion in remote parts, without affiliation. Others are cenobites, living and traveling with kindred fellow sannyasi in the pursuit of the spiritual journey, sometimes in ashramas or matha, sangha. Most Hindu ascetics adopt celibacy when they begin sannyasa. However, there are exceptions, such as the Saiva Tantra school of asceticism, where ritual sex is considered part of liberation process. Sex is viewed by them as a transcendence from a personal, intimate act to something impersonal and ascetic. The goal of the Hindu Sannyasini is moksha. The idea of what that means varies from tradition to tradition. Who am I, and in what really do I consist? What is this gauge of suffering? For the Bhakti traditions, liberation consists of union with the divine and release from samsara. For yoga traditions, liberation is the experience of the highest samadhi, and for the Advaita tradition, liberation is jivan mukti, the awareness of the supreme reality and self-realization in this life. Sannyasa is a means and an end in itself. It is a means to decreasing and then ultimately ending all ties of any kind. It is a means to the soul and meaning, but not ego nor personalities. Sannyasa does not abandon the society, it abandons the ritual mores of the social world and one's attachment to all its other manifestations. The end is a liberated, content-free and blissful existence. The behaviors and characteristics. The behavioral state of a person in sannyasa is described by many ancient and medieval-era Indian texts. Bhagavad Gita discusses it in many verses. For example, he is known as a permanent sannyasin who does not hate, does not desire, is without dualities. Truly, Mahabhau, he is liberated from bondage. Other behavioral characteristics, in addition to renunciation, during sannyasa include ahimsa, akrita, disarmament, chastity, bachelorhood, avyati, amati, self-restraint, truthfulness, sarvabhutahita, asteya, aparigraha and shaucha. Some Hindu monastic orders require the above behavior in form of a vow before a renunciate can enter the order. Tiwari notes that these virtues are not unique to sannyasa and other than renunciation. All of these virtues are revered in ancient texts for all four ashramas of human life. Bodhayana Dharma Sutra, completed by about 7th century BC, states the following behavioral vows for a person in sannyasa. These are the vows a sannyasi must keep: abstention from injuring living beings, truthfulness, abstention from appropriating the property of others, abstention from sex, liberality of the major vows. There are 5 minor vows: abstention from anger, obedience towards the Guru, avoidance of rashness, cleanliness, and purity in eating. He should beg without annoying others. Any food he gets he must compassionately share a portion with other living beings. Sprinkling the remainder with water, he should eat it as if it were a medicine. Types: ashrama. Upanishad identified various types of sannyasi renounces based on the different goals. Kutashaka, seeking atmospheric world; Bahudika, seeking heavenly world; Hamsa, seeking penance world; Paramahamsa, seeking truth world; and Turiyatitas and Devadutas, seeking liberation in this life. In some texts, such as Sannyasa Upanishad, these were classified by the symbolic items the sannyasins carried in their lifestyle. For example, Kutashaka sannyasis carried triple staffs, Hamsa sannyasis carried single staffs, while Paramahamsas went without them. This method of classification based on emblematic items became controversial as antithematic to the idea of renunciation. Later texts, such as Narada Parivrajaka Upanishad, stated that all renunciation is one, but people enter the state of sannyasa for different reasons: for detachment and getting away from the routine meaningless world, to seek knowledge and meaning in life, to honor rites of sannyasa they have undertaken, and because he already has liberating knowledge. Other classifications. There were many groups of Hindus, Jain and Buddhist sannyasis coexisting in pre-Maurya Empire era, each classified by their attributes, such as Achalakas, Ajivika, Avirudaka, Devadhamika, Eksatakis, Gautamika, Jatilaka, Magandika, Mundasavaka, Nagrantha, Paribhajaka, Tedandikas, Titya and others. Warrior ascetics. Ascetic life was historically a life of renunciation, non-violence and spiritual pursuit. However, in India, this has not always been the case. For example, after the Mongol and Persian Islamic invasions in the 12th century, and the establishment of Delhi Sultanate, the ensuing Hindu-Muslim conflicts provoked the creation of a military order of Hindu ascetics in India. These warrior ascetics formed paramilitary groups called ashramas, and they invented a range of martial arts. Nathsiddhas of the 12th century AD may have been the earliest Hindu monks to resort to a military response after the Muslim conquest. Ascetics, by tradition, led a nomadic and unattached lifestyle. As these ascetics dedicated themselves to rebellion, their groups sought stallions, developed techniques for spying and targeting, and they adopted strategies of war against Muslim nobles and the Sultanate state. Many of these groups were devotees of Hindu deity Mahadeva and were called Mahants. Other popular names for them were Sannyasis, Yogis, Nagas, Berajas and Gossains from 1500 to 1800 AD in some cases. These Hindu monks cooperated with Muslim fakirs who were Sufi and also persecuted. Warrior monks continued the rebellion through the Mughal Empire and became a political force monks during the early years of British Raj. In some cases, these regiments of soldier monks shifted from guerrilla campaigns to war alliances, and these Hindu warrior monks played a key role in helping British establish themselves in India. The significance of warrior ascetics rapidly declined with the consolidation of British Raj in late 19th century, and with the rise in non-violence movement by Mahatma Gandhi. Novatsky states that some of these Hindu warrior ascetics were treated as folk heroes, aided by villages and townspeople, because they targeted figures of political and economic power in a discriminatory state, and some of these warriors paralleled Robin Hood's lifestyle. Sannyasa, Upanishads. Of the 108 Upanishads of the Muktika, the largest corpus is dedicated to Sannyasa and to yoga, or about 20 each with some overlap. The renunciation-related texts are called the Sannyasa Upanishads. These are as follows. Among the 13 major principal Upanishads, all from the ancient era, many include sections related to sannyasa. For example, the motivations and state of a sannyasi are mentioned in Maitrayani Upanishad, a classical major Upanishad that Robert Hume included among his list of 13 principal Upanishads of Hinduism. Maitrayani starts with the question, given the nature of life, how is joy possible? And how can one achieve moksha? In later sections it offers a debate on possible answers and its views on sannyasa. In this body infected with passions, anger, greed, delusion, fright, despondency, grudge, separation from what is dear and desirable, attachment to what is not desirable, hunger, thirst, old age, death, illness, sorrow and the rest, how can one experience only joy? Himai, the drying up of great oceans, the crumbling down of the mountains, the instability of the pole star, the tearing of the wind cords, the sinking down, the submergence of the earth, the tumbling down of the gods from the place in a world in which such things occur. How can one experience only joy? Himai, for dragged away and polluted by the river of the gunas, one becomes rootless, tottering, broken down, greedy, uncomposed and falling in the delusion of I-consciousness. He imagines, I am this, this is mine, and binds himself like a bird in the net. Himvai, just as the fire without fuel comes to rest in its place, so also the passive mind comes to rest in its source. When it is infatuated by the objects of sense, he falls away from truth and acts. Mind alone is the samsara. One should purify it with diligence. You are what your mind is, a mystery, a perpetual one. The mind which is serene cancels all actions good and bad. He who, himself serene, remains steadfast in himself, he attains imperishable happiness. Himvai, 34-6 of the Sannyasa Upanishads, Aruni, Kandika, Kathashruti, Paramahamsa, Jabala and Brahma, were composed before the 3rd century CE, likely in the centuries before or after the start of the Common Era, states Sprokov. The Asrama Upanishad is dated to the 3rd century, the Narada Parivrajaka and Satyayana Upanishads to around the 12th century, and about 10 of the remaining Sannyasa Upanishads are dated to have been composed in the 14th to 15th century CE, well after the start of Islamic Sultanate's period of South Asia in late 12th century. The oldest Sannyasa Upanishads have a strong Advaita Vedanta outlook, and these predate Adi Shankara. Most of the Sannyasa Upanishads present a yoga and non-dualism Vedanta philosophy. This may be, states Patrick Olivelle, because major Hindu monasteries of early medieval period belonged to the Advaita Vedanta tradition. The 12th century Satyayana Upanishad is a significant exception, which presents qualified dualistic and Vaishnavism philosophy.